Cell injury and cell death are very important topics in pathophysiology. That's because our bodies are made up of cells, from our hearts to our liver, our brain, our skin. Everything is made up of cells. So we need to understand how cells get injured and how they die, which helps us understand disease. So that's the foundation of pathophysiology. It's how our bodies respond to internal and external challenges. In our day-to-day lives, each cell in our body is like a little factory that's constantly responding to many different tasks. Our cells are exposed to many different threats like environmental pollutants, physical strains, infectious microbes, and even internal issues like genetic abnormalities. To deal with these challenges, cells have developed a range of strategies. They can ramp up their defense mechanisms, they can change how they process energy, they can activate self-repair protocols to fix DNA damage, and this is a very complex process that's always trying to maintain equilibrium in cells and ensure that cells survive. The problem is when there's too much damage, cells have to decide whether they die or not. So there's cell injury. Injury can come in many different forms. It may be cells swelling because of water influx. It may be metabolic disturbances that lead to changes in cell structure, or DNA damage that can have very big consequences. These injuries, they can start out small, but they can have big effects as they accumulate, leading to malfunctioning cells, tissues, and organs. When cells are confronted with irreversible damage, too much damage, they have to make a decision whether to attempt recovery or to die. Necrosis is a kind of disordered and disruptive cell death that can lead to inflammation and damage nearby tissues. In contrast, apoptosis is programmed cell death that allows cells that are damaged beyond repair, or those that are no longer needed, to die in an orderly manner. Another important aspect is something called autophagy. This is where cells eat their own components to recycle and reuse them. This is a survival tactic, but when it's overdone, it can tip the scale towards basically self-destructive cell death. In heart disease, for example, the death of heart cells diminishes our heart's ability to pump effectively. In neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's, the progressive death of neurons leads to loss of memory and cognitive functions. In the liver, continuous cell injury from toxins like alcohol can lead to cirrhosis, which is irreversible scarring. And understanding these mechanisms is very important, especially in cancer. In cancer, we have cells that are not going through cell death. So we look at how can we make how can we trigger cell death in cancer?